Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of WTF. What the Footy? Couple of Yanks shooting blanks about Australian rules football. This is episode 12 for May 25th, 2026. This is our Memorial Day, where we remember the 1.3 plus million who have died in service to this country. On the right side is Joe Rutter. I'm Robert Gregory. Joe, how you doing?
Good. We don't take a holiday off for anybody. We go
That's
every
right.
Sunday if we can, every
That's
week,
right.
and it's two Yanks shooting blanks. I think that's more apropos this week than any, with us not trying to figure out the topsy turvy world of the AFL. And
Boy, isn't that the
the
truth?
ladder got turned on its head a little bit.
Well,
We've
we've got a new top of the ladder. We've got a new bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
We had a 43-point rally that cost me money from the same guys that cost me money before. We had an 86-point quarter?
Unbelievable. Against the two-time champs, nonetheless.
Against the two-time champs who could not manage one single solitary goal in the third quarter of that contest.
Yeah.
And we got a Blues side. Oh, we've got a guy that broke the career games record, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a Blues side that's on a hot streak.
Two in a row for Josh Frazier, the caretaker coach.
And we wrapped up the Sir Doug Nichols round with an exciting match between the Bulldogs and my Demons.
Yeah,
a lot going on, Joe.
Yeah, it was an exciting weekend. There was close games. There were blowouts, big comebacks. And we always start off with our song of the week, and I'll get this one queued up here. Not surprisingly, I mean, I really, under normal circumstances, I might have gone with Greater Western Sydney for the song of the week.
For what they did to Brisbane.
Oh. Yeah, the record quarter they did. But hey, when Scott Pendlebury sets the all-time record, you got to go with the Collingwood Magpies.
I agree. So let's hear it. Victory song of the week. This is spirited. Wow.
Oh, Collingwood.
Very, very spirited.
Yes, it is.
10-point victory this week over the West Coast Eagles. Not as easy as they thought it might have been. I think West Coast was within 3 with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah,
they were in this game. They were in this game. And we talked last week about how, Collingwood had that draw against Hawthorn.
Mm-hmm.
Had that, 1-goal loss to Sydney. And they are now back into the playoff picture. They're sitting at 10th now after that victory. But, they're going to be looking for points the rest of the way, right?
They really will. And
so they have West Coast, and they think, okay, it's just West Coast. And here they are, just up 3 in the middle of the fourth quarter on a day where they're celebrating Pendlebury's achievement, his 433rd game. I can just imagine what that coaching box was thinking.
Yeah, especially with you don't want to say they took him lightly, but everything was focused around Pendlebury and setting that record, and with the uniform unveiling and all that. And it was almost like West Coast was overshadowed, and they had a record crowd for a non-Victoria visiting team there.
Yeah, over 90,000 at the MCG for this.
So West Coast really could have played the role of spoiler. But before we move on too far, I want to point out that song was Good Old Collingwood Forever, based on a 1906 song, Goodbye, Dolly Gray. So again, it's not an original. It's a takeoff on another song. Never heard the other song. Haven't listened to the other song. I'll be content to listen to the Collingwood one. Although I think it's funny that they're saying, "Oh, it's the premiership's a cakewalk when you're good old Collingwood." Well,
I was gonna say they're not even having a cakewalk this year. They're not even having a cakewalk, just getting into the wild card spots.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I didn't hear any line in there either about letting people down.
Nope.
Like
Nope.
another song we heard
Yeah,
last
they
week.
don't. Unlike Carlton, they never let. Well, Carlton never lets anybody down, but we've beaten that one to death.
Yeah. Pendlebury, 38 years old, not the best of games against West Coast. He didn't score. He had 20 disposals, 13 handballs, just 49 fantasy points. The top was Dacos with 126. So, not the greatest of showings, but probably not the point. They all come out, the word was he was going to come out in the gold 10, and it turns out they got permission from the AFL. They all came out in the gold numbers, and
That's nice.
it was it looked to be an amazing celebration of longevity from this Collingwood legend.
Yeah, it was, and I actually I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit. I mean, I saw the highlights, and I caught what I could on AFL.com.au. I wish I would have DVR'd it maybe so I could have paid a little more attention. Caught some of the pregame festivities. I know the one I think it was the Carlton game I watched. I was really disappointed when I think it was FS2 they were doing the Indigenous ceremony, which I get a kick out of watching. I really enjoy how they do these ceremonies.
It's
and
impressive.
They cut away to commercial right in the middle of it, right? I mean, like
stupid Americans.
Yeah, it's like 30 seconds into the start of it, and they go to a commercial. 5 minutes later, they come back and they're throwing the ball to start the match. I couldn't believe it.
FS2 shooting blanks.
That's right.
On Australian rules football. That's what that is. So we talk about Collingwood and their need for points. So they've got, they got Western next. Western, who, I don't think anybody would have, it wouldn't have been a surprise. You just said with all the injuries they've had, they've been left for dead. They continue to fight back. We'll talk about their close win against Melbourne coming up. Collingwood's got Western, they got Melbourne, then they got the bye. Then they get Port Adelaide at 14th right now and Richmond at 17th. So there are opportunities for them to continue to aggregate points. But like I said, we looked at the end of their season, and it's not going to be as easy as they think.
No, it's not. It's they've got a ways to go here, and for as strong as they started in the injuries they've had, I mean, they still have Marcus Bontempelli. Anytime you have him, you're sitting pretty good. But they've had a lot of guys getting hurt around him, and there's questions on how healthy he is, whether he needs to be managed a little bit. But I don't think they can afford to take him out now with the way, with all the other injuries and the way they've been playing. But they're a team that's going to have to, scrap and fight for points to be, I don't think they're going to be in the top 4 or 5, maybe 6, but I think they're going to have to hang around this wild card round to make the final this year.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on how that top 6 is going to play down the stretch. But, I mean, right now, with the schedule that they have, I think they're lucky if they're a wild card team because there's a lot of teams above them that are playing pretty well. Some teams that are stumbling a little bit. We can talk about Sydney as far as that goes. They're no longer at the top of the ladder. It's Freo now at the top. But for Collingwood, again, they're going to have to scratch and claw for points, especially down the stretch. And now, I don't know if you heard about this, there's a little bit of a controversy brewing in that draw against Hawthorn. Did you hear about this?
I did not.
So Channel 7 today comes out and says that final goal by Hawthorn that tied that game made it a draw. 2 points apiece for the Hawks and the Pies, right? Which may or may not be significant at the end of the season. We will find out.
Yeah.
That last goal should not have been allowed.
Why not?
According to Channel 7, they teamed with Champion Data, which is the official statistician for Australian rules football.
Yeah.
So I learned a rule today. You are limited in the number of interchanges you have per game.
Okay.
So that's people coming on and off the field.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. The limit is 75.
Oh, okay.
Channel 7 and Champion Data are claiming, I shouldn't say Champion Data is claiming. I think they're using Champion Data's stats.
Yeah.
Channel 7 is claiming that at the end of that game, right before the Dylan Moore goal that tied it, made it a draw, there was an interchange that was the 76th interchange for Hawthorn. That should have resulted in a 50-meter penalty. And for all intents and purposes would have ended the game with a
Yeah.
Collingwood victory and 4 points. Channel 7 talked to the AFL. The AFL went back and checked, said they have 75 interchanges. Although Channel 7 claims that Champion Data has 76 interchanges. So I'm not really sure if Champion is the official statistician for the AFL and how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, just to me, that sounds like a lot of nitpicky type of stuff to do this several weeks after the fact and come up with this. You know, if it wasn't spotted and noticed right away, you can't go and adjudicate it now. You can't say that, okay, well, we're going to take the 6 points away from you, and then it's going to be a 4-point or 6-point win for Hawthorn, and they get for Collingwood, and Hawthorn gets no points. You can't do that now, and it seems to me like even if this is becoming a subject, it's like, oh well, it should have been caught before it wasn't. Live with it and move on.
Well, Hawthorn says that they have 75 interchanges. Collingwood hasn't said anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no reason for that other than they probably shouldn't say anything until they have, pretty concrete evidence that maybe they were wronged. Yeah. There is precedent to change the final score after the fact. It happened, I think, back in 2006 when the final horn was sounded, but the officials didn't hear it. And a minor score was made in the 10 seconds between the horn and when the officials ended the game. That changed, that was the outcome of the game. It was a 1-point game. And the league actually went back and changed that result to a draw, I believe. So there is precedent if they wanted to go back and maybe change some points. But I'm with you on that. I mean, this seems like kind of a basic thing, right? I mean, 75 to 76 interchanges. I'm not saying it's obvious, but I mean, it's one of those rules that, it results in a 50-meter penalty, which definitely would have taken Dylan Moore way out of, goal range. So that's going on with the Pies too. So again, this is going to be interesting just for the rest of the season, just to chart, their points and their wins and losses and really put them under a microscope, if only because of the way they treated Pendlebury in the last 3 or 4 weeks, as far as when they rested him, when they played him, and what have you. So we will keep our eye on that, of course. Do you want to talk about your Blues?
Yeah, we can. I mean, it was a nice, convincing. They had a nice lead. They held on. They didn't choke anything away. They played well. They won a game that, I thought they had a chance to win. And,
I mean, for once they won going away. I mean,
yeah, and they played well, and it was very encouraging to see. And they got Geelong this week, so I don't have high hopes there for that. But I'll take it. I like what they were able to do. I don't think Port Adelaide is that great of competition. Geelong, but after Geelong, they have some more winnable games. I think they have Richmond, Essendon, maybe St. Kilda, and GWS, which I thought would be a winnable game, but they look like world beaters in that third quarter the other day. But I still think it's a team they can beat.
And we talked about, we were kind of joking about it, maybe not too serious if, Carlton had a chance of getting, clawing their way back up to 10th place, to at least getting in that wild card round, at least being in the conversation. And they're still 5 games out, but you're right. You look at this upcoming schedule, you got Geelong this week, which I'll tell you what, I think it's the perfect time to play one of these top-rung teams for this coaching staff to see what they actually have, right? And see what kind of difference they have made. I mean, it's obvious 2 wins in the last 2 weeks when they were just a moribund franchise coming into, the first, second week of May. So they got Geelong, and then they got Essendon, which is now the bottom of the ladder. So you're right, that's a winnable game. They have a bye, Greater Western, West Coast, and Richmond. So in the next 6 weeks, they're playing the 3 bottom rungs of the ladder. A perfect opportunity for the Blues to pick up some points.
Yeah, it's a good chance for them to, and again, to build some momentum with this new coaching staff. Josh Frazier said he, doesn't deserve to be considered for the job. They keep winning like this. I'm thinking he does get considered, but it's funny because they've won 2 in a row. Now everybody's like, well, they've got to consider this guy. They've got to, but let's pump the brakes a little bit here. It's only 2 wins. They got Geelong. Let's see what happens here. It's encouraging based on the first 9 weeks, but let's take it a little easy here and let this play out before. And I guess they're going to start interviews here at some point. But take your time. Make sure you're doing the right thing. They'll make a decision one way or the other with this interim coach or caretaker, as they call it over there.
If they beat Geelong, do they have to take the caretaker title off of him?
I don't think they do until maybe the end of the year. I mean, I just don't. I think they're just momentum's a funny thing, and I think they can ride it for a little bit. Can they ride it for 12 weeks at the end of the year? More weeks? I doubt it. But
like you said, they've got to stretch. If he can have convincing wins over the bottom of the ladder. I don't think anybody is expecting this team to beat Geelong. I think they can challenge them. I mean, they're not a bad side. They've never been a bad side. They just had bad quarters. That's all there is to it. But
it reinforces to me too that I didn't think it was a lack of talent. I thought they had enough talented players there. I thought they were still talented enough to be middle of the pack, not a top 5 or 6 team. And I think now they're showing that they're better than their record indicates. But I don't think they're a championship team by any stretch. But I think they can contend and compete with some of these upper echelon teams. I mean, they did it with Sydney for the first half of that game, and they're with they've been able to hold their own for a while, but then it just falls apart. Now they're playing better.
They're in the early Friday slot this week at MCG. That's 5:40 in the morning if you're setting your calendar there, Joe. 5:40 in the morning on Friday. Carlton Geelong. Who knows how we'll be able to see it here in the States until 5:39.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, Geelong's a good test for them. And I think you're right. I mean, there's no question. I think they're probably one of the best 10 teams in the league. They don't deserve to be. I mean, well, they do deserve to be 15th because that's what happens when you lose.
Yeah.
But as far as talent goes, they don't deserve to be 15th in the league. It'll be interesting to see how this goes too. This in the next couple of weeks, like I said, that 6-week stretch where not only do they get the bottom of the ladder, but they also get a break. They get to heal up a little bit.
They can,
and they get to heal up a little bit before they play a couple of these bottom feeders.
Yeah, it hurts though that they're going to be without Matt Carroll the rest of the season.
Yeah,
a young player for them that had an ACL tear. Kind of ended his season early. He was one of those kind of foundational guys. But when I did watch the game, it was good to see Jack Eisen, the player who was played in his first game the week before and kind of was feeded for that big win. He came up with a couple goals, and even the one kid who missed the would have been the tying goal against. Was that even Hawk? I can't remember who that was against, but it was the same situation. He gets a free kick at the buzzer. He puts it through, and it's a tie, but he hooked it, and they ended up losing. He got a goal this week too, so it was good to see. Some of the younger players step up, but it's a tough break for Matt Carroll being out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Carroll's ACL injury though gives Carlton a pick in tomorrow's midseason draft.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So 12 teams have requested spots in this 3-round draft. All 3 rounds are not full. I think there's only 5 slots in the second round and maybe 4 in the third. Mm-hmm. But Carlton will get the 11th pick. Oh, I'm sorry, the 4th pick. They'll get the 4th pick in tomorrow's midseason rookie draft. Melbourne gets 3 of them, 11, 18, 11, 16, and 19. Teams don't have to use them.
Yeah.
But these are selections they get. And, Carlton had no reason to be involved in the midseason draft until that ACL tear by Carroll.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a chance, to add players, and I guess these are guys that fell through the cracks last year, but are having good years this season in their first year with the VFL, I assume, and they get a chance to get added to these rosters, maybe play their way onto a team, and for teams that have a lot of injuries like Richmond, this really helps out. And I'm sure
Oh,
Western,
yeah.
it helps out that they can add some pieces, because Richmond certainly doesn't want to be 18th on the ladder when the season's over. And anyway, they want to try to win some games here, so they can benefit from adding extra pieces as well.
D's have 3 picks. Part of that's because they had another retirement this week.
Yeah.
Shane McAdams says he was done. Played 53 games in his career, 50 of them for Adelaide, only 3 for the D's, but he's been saddled with injuries the last couple years. The latest one, an Achilles injury. He becomes the 3rd D to retire this year, joining Stephen May and Tom Campbell. So the D's have some slots to fill as well. And the loss to Western, I don't think we're really concerned about that because, like we said, the Bulldogs side is a side that, even though they're saddled with all these injuries, they're just not quitting. And the D's did have a chance at the end of that game to win, and was it Harvey Langford had a shot at a mark in the goal box and dropped it. And yeah. And the team was quick to say, well, look, this is not on Langford, okay? Yes. This is a game that has 4 quarters, and there was a lot going on in those 4 quarters. And as it was, the D's fall by 3 points to the Bulldogs. As I look at the ladder here, they fall 1 spot, but they're still in the top 6. They're still sitting there with 7 wins. They've got their percentage up above 106. I mean, the D's are in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, I would think so. And, now, like I said, I did catch the end of that. And, it looked like, fourth quarter that they were pull. They finally did pull ahead for a little bit.
Yeah, back and forth.
Kind of back and forth. And, if the ball bounces right the other way, they get a chance to win that. Even at the end, I saw with, I think the ball got bounced around and went right to Bontempelli, who kind of, like in basketball, dribbled it out, dribbled it up the field and then booted it as the siren sounded to seal that win. So, I mean, ball bounces the other way. Maybe they're getting a shot off to try to win for Melbourne. I mean, it was a good game. And, that's all you can ask for, especially when you got teams like that are kind of evenly matched. And that could both could be or should be among the 10 playoff teams.
Western hanging in there. They're at number 9, 24 points. Their percentage is still under 100, which is kind of funny. They're the only team in the top 10 whose percentage is under 100 points. So, yeah, Western hanging in there. Causey Pickett, dude, you got to remember your pass, right? What was it, a half hour?
Yeah, half hour. Outside. He didn't have his pass to get into the grounds, and it was a home game too, right?
Were there? Yeah. I mean, were there complaints about how long it took to get him into MCG?
I don't know if there were complaints. I just know it led to, he said on the broadcast, took him a half hour to get in. He forgot his pass. I mean,
Causey, remember your pass, dude.
Anyway. Hey, it shows they're taking security seriously there. I remember first year PNC Park opened, the owner of the team for the Pirates, he came up to the press box, didn't have his pass. Security guard wouldn't let him go. And he could have pulled the old "Don't you know who I am" card, and he didn't. And, somebody eventually had to tell the security guard, hey, you got to let him through. He owns the team. And the security guard, he was praised for doing his job, but eventually was reassigned to another post where he wasn't as stringent on ownership.
You don't say.
But, the owner took it in stride, and hey, he didn't have his pass, and he knew he should have. So, way to go, Causey.
Some sad news out of the D's camp though today. It just sounds like a really great man for footy passed away. Neil Danaher was 65 years old. He coached Melbourne for 10 years, helped them to a grand final in 2000. Was diagnosed, and we'll get this right, motor neuron disease in 2013, which I assume is a condition of the central nervous system. Dedicated his life after that. So for the past 13 years, dedicated his life to the advocacy of this disease and raising money to combat it. And I read the number was $100 million over the past 13 years he and his family have raised.
Good for him.
To combat motor neuron disease. He came up playing for Essendon. He was actually their best and fairest in 1981. He was named captain for the 1982 season, but did not play a game with the Sea because he got hurt. And his career ended not too long after that. He was the 2025 Australian of the Year. He's a member of the Australian Order, which you can only get from the Queen. A big loss for the D's family, for the Bombers family, and for footy overall. The tributes were immediate and stacked on each other upon the news of his passing.
As they should be if someone with that kind of resume and did that much for the game, and especially raising money for the disease. I have to admit, being a fairly newcomer back to the sport, I hadn't heard of him, but I'm glad to see him getting his due.
Yeah. So Neil Danaher dead at the age of 65, and he will definitely be missed. He was the third of 11 children. And at one point in 1990, he and 3 of his brothers appeared in the same lineup for Essendon, the first time, and I'm guessing the only time that has ever happened on the footy field. So we remember him as well today. Joe, you're not allowed to touch the umpires.
No.
Did you know this?
Well, I figured you couldn't because would be pretty basic.
That just seems like common sense, right?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's not common sense to 5 teams in this league. And the AFL had to come out and threaten them with $50,000 fines.
Jeez.
Because they keep bumping the referees. We're talking about Greater Western. Yeah. We're talking about Brisbane, Western, Collingwood, and Adelaide. They all have players with multiple infractions this year. And the league finally came out and said, look, guys, if you have 4 or more, we're going to tag you with this $50,000 fine. Now, to put that in context, a couple of weeks ago, the report came out about Carlton and mental health, right?
Yep.
And they were fined $75,000.
Yeah.
Which is what, a top 3, top 4 fine all time for the league? $50,000, pretty steep for touching a ref.
I would think so too. And it might not sound like a big fine for people over here in American sports, but over there with the smaller salary cap, and it sounds to me like that's something that ownership wouldn't want to have to pony up.
I mean, what are we doing here? And then in the what game was that? The game that cost me money. Gold Coast and North Melbourne.
Yes.
2 players in that game were tagged. $1,000 fine for contact with a referee. So it doesn't sound like it's going away, Joe.
No. And what side were they on, the 2 players? Were they
on one each. One for North Melbourne and one for Gold Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're paying. They're getting, and obviously with the fact that paying the $1,000 means they're accepting their punishment. And
exactly. You're right. It would be $1,500, right?
Yeah,
it'd be $1,500 if they were going to fight it. How do you fight something like that, though? Right? This isn't a misheard quote that says how much are they paying you?
Yes.
Isn't that what it was?
Yes,
isn't that what it was? What the quote was? Yeah. This is actual contact that you can look at the video and say, yeah, you touched the referee, you're getting tagged. $50,000 is what they want to do.
Jeez.
So as we said, the Sir Doug Nicholls round concluded with the round 11 games. Going through the results, we had Hawthorn beating Adelaide, Richmond getting out of the basement with an 18-point win over the Bombers. Freo.
Bombers just look like they're in trouble.
Oh,
one win in their last, I don't know how many. But they won 1 last year. They've won 1 this year. They just look, and they're winning. I think they had a win like maybe the opening round of last year.
Then we know we know what that win was this year.
Oh yeah. And their coach. I'm surprised their coach hasn't been tossed yet. I mean, everybody Brad Scott, he's well regarded, and I guess they're going to give him the rest of the year. But wow, you lose like that. And
Well,
you
they've
can't
had a
use
lot of
it.
injuries too, haven't they? I mean,
Well, they have, but so has Richmond. I mean,
they've
Richmond's
been beat
been
up. Yeah,
hurt pretty bad.
yeah. You're right about that. Freo easy over St. Kilda, and with that victory and a Sydney loss to Geelong, Freo takes over the top spot on the ladder.
And a little
Uh,
Wharfy time there to help out.
uh,
A little close
that's
there, then they pulled away. So
that's right. That's right.
yeah.
So they got a 30-point win. Okay, North Melbourne down 43 against Gold Coast and the Fighting Petrarcas. Come all the way back to beat the Suns 111-105. Alistair Clarkson, the coach for North Melbourne, getting lots of flowers this week because he
Yeah.
made a couple halftime adjustments, moving a couple players to ruck and then moving another one to forward, which was the entire difference. Gold Coast just had no answer for these moves. And now all of a sudden, Gold Coast is sitting there at 5, tied with Melbourne.
Yeah, and it's Gold Coast. This is for everybody that thought, okay, this is their year. They're going to ascend to that top 2-3 spot. No, they've kind of disappointed a little bit, and it's games like these that are the reason why. I mean, they went out and got Christian Petrarca, and I saw some clips of him being skewered by some of the analysts for the way they said he was reverting to bad habits and just automatically blindly kicking deep when he.
I was going to say, I saw that headline too.
Yeah, when he could have gotten rid of the ball to other players much closer to him. And they said that kind of contributed to this. And it was funny. I was thinking about this, and especially watching the end of that with the long kick to the guy was pulled down inside the box, got the free kick basically with 18 seconds left, ran it down to nothing and put it through. And I was trying to think, like, to explain that to somebody who really didn't follow the sport. I'd be like the NFL, like somebody throwing up a Hail Mary and the cornerback just yanking the receiver to the ground as time expired and then getting flagged for it and them getting a chance to kill a goal to win the game. I mean, that's to me, that was hot. That was so, and there was nothing they could say because to me it was so egregious. The guy just got totally yanked down. They had, wasn't a close call, wasn't controversial.
No,
it was obvious.
No, nobody questioned that call.
Yeah, it was obvious.
In fact, all you saw were Gold Coast players like this, right?
Yeah.
They were all like this, like, what just happened?
Yes.
How did we blow a 43-point lead in this game?
Yep. And it was stunning to see, and I never expected Gold Coast to fold like that. But it tightens that ladder up north, moving up there. I know North isn't a friend of yours. But North kind of hanging up there around wild card territory when everybody kind of expected them to drop back down because they really didn't have a big win. They had some wins, but they were against bottom of the ladder teams. Well, now they beat somebody that's considered in the upper echelon.
I was going to say they got a top 6 win now, and that's got to mean something. And they're sitting there, 13th? I mean, they're only half game out of 10th. I mean, so it's not like they're in trouble. I didn't look at their upcoming schedule, but this is a team, like you said, that hasn't folded.
Yeah, I mean they have a legitimate chance. They're not the way the second half goes, they could find themselves fighting for one of those wild card spots.
43-point rally, not the biggest rally in Kangaroos history, which I thought was a little surprising. They had a 44-point rally at some point somewhere. Okay. I didn't dig too deep on it because, again, we don't get along. They cost me money. They continue to cost me money. They cost me money on that game and way before. And, okay, I'm past.
And we got their song out of the way, so I won't subject you to that anymore the rest of the season. Unless we determine that maybe they're one of the top 5, then we'll bring it back. But right now, I don't think so.
Well, I'm pretty sure I automatically did not like that song, so I will not have a vote. Or put it this way, I will not vote for it for a top 5 song. In our small circle of friends here. So Gold Coast goes down, and we're kind of scratching your head on Gold Coast because, again, I don't think they've been the same since Petrarca got hurt. I mean, I felt like they were a well-oiled machine those first couple of weeks. Then Petrarca got hurt. They were missing him. He came back, and they just haven't been the same.
Yeah, they haven't clicked. And, you were the one who was right on it with Sydney. And Sydney's kind of been the same way until this week. They were winning, and then until they didn't.
I was right on to a point.
Yeah.
Not enough to actually, not pick them this week.
Yeah.
Like an idiot. That's why I went 4-5 this week, folks. 4-5. I think this is my first losing week of the year. And it just occurred to me, I forgot to look at DraftKings to see what the lines were for the upcoming games this week. So you're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait for the Twitter feed to find out what's going on. Geelong beat Sydney. And even though I'm stupid when it comes to betting my money, this is a Swans team that for the last month, they've been holding on for dear life at the top of the ladder, and they finally got this week to Geelong.
And you were on that from the start. You've been on them for the last couple of weeks, saying they were ripe to lose, and and they got caught. And you look at it again, and I didn't realize this till last night. I looked at the ladder from last season that Sydney didn't even make the playoffs. They were below Western. I think they were. Well, let's see. Western was 9th. Sydney, I think, was 10th. And because the only top 8 made it last year. And, but everybody predicted because of the moves they made and getting Charlie Curnow that they would be much better. And all of a sudden they got to the top of the ladder. And I think kind of people, at least I did, took it for granted. Oh, this is a much better team. Well, Geelong showed them, that wait a minute here. Let's hold up here. Geelong, there's a reason they played in the grand final last year. And they showed that with the way they showed up and played against Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah, and the heat now is starting to build on Charlie Curnow, right? Because
I think it is. Yeah,
because he just, I think it's been easy for him to kind of hide in the background when things were good, and other players were picking him up. But now that Sydney has kind of hit a rough patch, and this is obviously not the Swans team that we saw at the end of March into April when they were just steamrolling teams, right? Now the heat is starting to come on Curnow, who just has not been producing.
Yeah, and he was one of their big ticket items they got. They extended his contract, and he's making a pretty good salary. He was Carlton's best player last year, and and they gave up some good players to get him over there. And hey, it may pay off. He may lead them to a grand final. We don't know yet, but he's kind of hasn't lived up to his expectations. And, there were people that predicted because of the knee issues he's had and the problems in the past that he might be a health risk for Sydney. And right now he isn't playing like one of their best players. So that has to be somewhat concerning.
Now, with that said, and I think you make an excellent point about expectations of this team. With that said, they're approaching the turn with 9 wins. They get Richmond this week. So they probably should have 40 at the turn. This is a team that you've already mentioned did not make the playoffs last year. So has their success become a burden as far as expectations, you think?
You cut out there for a second. What was
your success or their success? Has that become a burden for their expectation this year?
It shouldn't be. I mean, with the players they have and I think the standard was kind of set going into the season and adding the pieces they did. I don't think it's a burden. It shouldn't be. They should be ready to show that they belong. They want to get in that top 4 so you can have a slip up in the finals and be able to keep playing. You still want to be there. You want to get as high as you can. So no, I don't think the expectations are unrealistic or should be a burden for them because they were set. I mean, they were one of the best teams in the league a couple of years ago. Didn't they beat Brisbane for the grand final a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken? Or
that sounds right.
Against Brisbane, maybe in the grand final a couple of years ago. But they haven't been a slouch. Put it to you that way. They've been a pretty good team, and they got better in the offseason. So the expectations should be high.
Gotcha. Well, we'll keep an eye on them, and like I said, the turn is next week, and we are planning on having a complete breakdown of the league at the midpoint of the season for next week, which should be a lot of fun, actually, just to try and predict who's going to be there and who's not going to be there at the end of the year. So we got to keep an eye on Sydney. And we also, I'm telling you, if I wasn't a D's fan, at least for this year, I would be a West Coast fan through and through. Okay? They pushed Collingwood to the limit. this past weekend
They
on
did.
one of the biggest nights in franchise history. I mean, so much was made of this game, and so much was made of Pendlebury's 433. And West Coast nearly came out and ruined the whole thing. Only down 3 in the fourth quarter. They lose by 10.
Yeah, they got young players. They've got some talented young players. They just need more of them, and I think they need a little more experience, maybe to go with that. They're an interesting team to watch. They've taken their lumps for sure. They've won games maybe they shouldn't have won or people didn't expect to win, but they're showing up and they're kind of riding that roller coaster. But they're fun to watch. And like you said, they threw a scare into Collingwood. Almost played the biggest role of spoiler in the league this year. Had they won that game and ruined the Pendlebury.
Yeah.
They're a fun team to watch, and being a team everybody expected to be 0-23, for them to do as well as they've done so far, is encouraging for them.
They got 3 victories, and keep in mind, I think this can't be said enough, how difficult their early season schedule was. I mean, they were pretty much playing the top of the ladder in April, and they took their lumps and took them big. But as it turns out, as what happens a lot in sport, when you get tested early, you grow from that. And this is a team that, I mean, they only have 3 wins, but I mean, this is a team that does not give up. This is a team that is not getting blown out wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a team that's only going to improve through the second half of the season, I think.
Yeah, I would think so too. And Carlton's getting them in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be tough for them. I don't the way Carlton's playing. Yeah, I'm encouraged, but you can't. These aren't gimmies against teams like West Coast. And
No.
And West Coast. And the other impressive thing was West Coast did that traveling to Collingwood. And doing that on the road.
Yeah. They had every single thing going against them, and to be within 3 points with like 5, 6, 7 minutes to go in that game, forcing Collingwood to step on the gas one last time to finish them off. That's a credit to that entire team and coaching staff and franchise.
Exactly.
Carlton, big win over Port. And then we have the woe of the Brisbane Lions.
Oh, jeez.
And the shine of a 2-time premiership squad may be completely wiped away by a team, and we've said this the last couple weeks, this Greater Western Sydney side has shown us absolutely nothing this year. I mean, they've been the most average, boring team in the league.
And they've lost games that you thought they would win.
Of
course. They have been competitive in some games. There's been talk of Toby Green wanting out, and finishing his career somewhere where he has a chance to win. And then not only do they hang with Brisbane for a half and get the lead, they just totally set a record, 83 or 86 point third quarter, and blow them out, the 2-time defending champs. And, we've seen Brisbane play this year, some games where they kind of went through the motions for periods, got to halftime, they turned it on in the second half, pulled away, no problem. Almost like kind of the tortoise and the hare philosophy. Well, the old hare fell way back, and the old tortoise kept going. And there was it caught up to them. It caught up to Brisbane. I think they took it lightly. I think they just didn't care in the second half. And once the snowball started going, they were powerless to stop it. And I don't think they had any interest in stopping it. It was just like, okay, well, we're going to lose. Let's just get this game over with and go home.
Let's just get on the bus. Get on the bus.
Yeah.
They were outscored 86-3 in that third quarter. Yeah. The Giants kicked 14 goals, had 2 minors. This is just in the third quarter. Brisbane finished with 88 points total, and Greater Western had 86 in the third quarter. Yeah. Brisbane, I don't understand. If you're a 2-time premiership champion and you have any pride at all, they went 0-3 in that third quarter. How do you not manage a goal when this is going on?
Yeah, you're not.
I mean, where's your heart?
You're not Richmond or Essendon. You're Brisbane, 2-time defending champions, and just for them to come out that flat in the second half and just roll over. I mean, just so surprising for them. And maybe that's a wake-up call. Maybe Brett that tells them that, and maybe Chris Fagan beats it into their head. Hey, you've got to, you can't just walk out there and expect to win. You need to put on a better effort. And maybe that happens. But, the stars did not come out for them. I heard a lot of guys getting criticized, like Dane Zorko, Cam Rayner. They just, they did not look like a team that just, had played so well. And they looked slow. They just looked disinterested. And, and give Greater Western credit. It hung it on them. It just, they increased their percentage enough. And now all of a sudden you're thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe this team's playoff bound.
Well, I mean, it's not lost on me.
Yeah.
That I have been particularly hard on this squad. Mm-hmm. Their team, their social media people, the entire franchise. Because they have just kind of been sleepwalking through the first part of this season.
Yep.
So if this is a wake-up call, that is a hell of a wake-up call against the two-time premiers. Greater Western right now sitting at 12th on the ladder. They are a half a game out of a playoff spot, despite the way that they have started this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're what, 5-6 now, I think?
Yeah.
But they're right there. They're right there for a playoff spot. And I don't know that they have visions of a top 6 finish, but they're only 2 games out. So it doesn't look like right now, looking at the ladder, that it's impossible. So maybe this is where Greater Western City turns things around.
It could be. And I saw one of the experts on AFL.com on their show. He was doing his midseason playoff predictions, and he had Greater Western getting the 10th spot and getting in there.
Getting in.
I don't think he had Western. He didn't have Collingwood. I know that much, but he had Greater Western getting that 10th spot, which was a little surprising to me. But they have the talent. They just haven't put it together until this week. And
then there's Brisbane, who started slow.
Yeah.
But they started slow 2 years ago when they won the premiership, right? Started slow, went on a run, charging hard, got themselves in the top 4. Now they're sitting at 8th. Okay? They're a home game in the wild card round. What should we think of the Lions?
I don't know what to think of them, but
I'm with you.
I don't know what to think of them. I would think that if you're Chris Fagan, you're glad to see this happen to your team, to kind of wake them up, shake them up a little bit, and to teach them, look, you've won it twice. That doesn't mean anything. Teams are counting for us. You got to play with better effort. You got to play with more heart, and you got to listen. I mean, it just seemed like they were just disinterested, and maybe they weren't taking the coaching. Well, maybe they got to listen now and do that, because they just didn't lose. They got whooped.
Yeah, they got whooped. They got whooped good.
Yeah,
and they get Freo this week.
Oh,
so it's a home game. We're at the GABA this week, but they get the top of the ladder this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only do they have a chance to kind of wipe away the stink of that game, but they got to do it against the top of the ladder.
And Freo's won 10 in a row, which is a record for that franchise.
Yeah.
So now that, there's some incentive there to knock Freo off its perch. And Freo, they're going to be coming in, gunning, going on the road and, seeing this is an opportunity to keep showing that they're legit. So this might be the game of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having said that, I did pull up the DraftKings app, so I can give you when we get to the next ones.
Outstanding. I love it. Yes. See, Joe, that's why you're professional. That's why you're a professional in this thing. As we mentioned before, Sir Doug Nicholls' round ended with Western's 3-point win over Melbourne. Didn't see many complaints on the socials about the Demons. A little bit on Langford, but I think that's natural. But as far as the D's go, 7 wins, top 6 right now. Really not much to complain about with the D's.
I wouldn't be complaining at all. I would think that that's kind of right where you'd want to be, and you'd be happy to be that as you're nearing the turn here.
Yeah, no complaints with the D's, and really no complaints with Western either. Despite the rocky road that they have had this season, they're sitting there at 9th. Mm-hmm. They've got 6 wins. They're a game out of the top 6. If you're a Bulldogs fan, you got to be ecstatic at the way they've played in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would think so too. They've kind of turned it around, and I would say you have to be a little bit encouraged.
New top of the ladder, as we've mentioned, Freo's at the top, 40 points. Sydney falls to second at 36. Then you've got Geelong with 32 at third. Hawthorn is still there, top 14 with 30. Gold Coast at 28. Melbourne at 28. That's 5 and 6. The wild card round right now is Adelaide, Brisbane, Western, and Collingwood. 24, 24, 24, 22. So they are all bunched together. The rest of the pack looks like this. St. Kilda's at 10th with 20. St. Kilda 11th with 20. Yeah. Greater Western at 12th with 20. North at 13 with 20. Separated by, 12 and 13, separated by about 1 percentage point. So that can go either way. Port's at 14. Your Blues are at 15, sitting there with 3 wins each. Your percentage, though, is going to be a problem.
It will be. And
86.1 right now. So I mean, they are not breaking any tiebreakers anytime soon. I mean,
no.
You know what? They're going to have to win, and they're going to have to win big if they want to, bring that up.
I would think so. Now if they would tie with somebody for 10th, it doesn't go head to head, right? It just goes right to the percentage.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that. I want to say it is percentage. I want to say that is the first tiebreaker for everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And as we said before, the Blues are going to have an opportunity to boost their percentage. I mean, they're playing the bottom of the ladder in the next 6 weeks. Yeah. I mean, there is plenty of opportunity there to rack up some big numbers.
And they're going to need to.
So they're at 15. West Coast, like I said, if it wasn't for the D's, they would be my beating heart. I just love the way this young team comes out and plays.
Yeah.
As much as the Pendlebury stuff was great, I mean, how can you not root for the Eagles to pull that upset, right?
Yep.
So they're at 16 with 3 wins. Richmond out of the basement with their victory over the Bombers. So they're at 17, and Essendon now at the bottom with 1 win and 18th place. And we do not need to remind people, we've already done it in this show, who Essendon beat this year. So we can move past that. So here's the round 12 schedule. You said you've got the DraftKings lines?
I got them ready to go.
Let's do it. Thursday night. We start off with St. Kilda and Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. What's the line, Joe?
Hawthorn giving 12.5 to St. Kilda.
Giving 12.5.
Yeah.
That seems pretty close.
I think so, too, for a team that's special. I mean, St. Kilda is at home. St. Kilda's kind of, Hawthorn, they've played pretty well, but there's some ups and downs, too.
Yeah.
I guess I can see 12.5. We'll see later in the week if that fluctuates, but
it usually does when the injury lists come out, huh?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't think we've been taking into account is we give these lines on Monday, and then by Wednesday night, everything's topsy-turvy because the lists come out and we get to see where all the injuries are. So we'll keep that in mind when we talk about this. Friday, Carlton Geelong at MCG.
Oh, my Blues getting 24.5 against Geelong.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right. And as much as I hate to say it, I think I'd be taking Geelong right now.
I was going to say, at 24.5 even, it's kind of hard to take the Blues. But again, much different team the last 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens. The second game on Friday is Sydney and Richmond. I can't wait to hear what this line is.
62.5.
Oh, my God. How do you not take Richmond?
I was going to say, Sydney's going to be fired up after losing to Geelong. But 62.5, that's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot of points.
Is banged up, but that's 60. That's one of the higher spreads we've ever seen this year.
I mean, I don't know if this puts this in context or not, but Greater Western scored 80 points in a quarter and still only won that game by 78?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So 60 points. I think that's steep.
It is. It is steep.
Brisbane Freo on Saturday. That one starts the Saturday schedule. That one's at the Gabba. That is Joe Rutter's game of the week.
It's surprising to me, Brisbane, though Brisbane is home, right now favored by 6.5.
Still a 6.5 point favorite. So we don't believe in Freo, I guess is what we're saying.
I believe in Freo. Yeah.
We don't believe in Freo. We don't believe in their 10-game winning streak. Is that part of it? Is that Vegas going, they got to lose sometime?
Yeah, I guess. And in fact, Brisbane's home coming off that horrible loss. You're thinking, okay, they're going to turn this around. But I would right now go with Frio. I'd take the points. I'd take them even up, to be honest with you.
I think you got to ride them when they're hot, right?
Yeah, I think you do too.
I think you got to ride them when they're hot, despite the fact that Brisbane is going to be itching for a chance to try and make up for that absolute disaster last weekend. Western and Collingwood. That's the 5:35 a.m. game at Marvel.
Western, a 7.5 point favorite.
How about that?
It's pretty close.
Nobody believes in the Pies. I mean, this is one. I feel like this is one of those crucial games for the Magpies, given where they're sitting right now on the ladder.
Yeah, it really is. It's a game that probably both teams really need to win to solidify a spot and to get close to that wild card range.
Yeah. 2 games on Sunday: Melbourne and Greater Western.
Ooh.
At T.O. Traeger Park.
Now, your D's favored by 5.5. It's a tough one.
I took them at 6.5, and that line went down to what, 2.5?
I think so.
By game time? Is that what we had seen on the good old DraftKings app? Sponsorship, DraftKings. I don't know. What Greater Western team are we going to see? Are we going to see the one that pummeled the Lions in the third quarter? Or are we going to see the team that's been sleepwalking all year?
Yeah, I guess that's why we got to figure this out because I'm not a big believer in GWS, but it's hard to take away. It's hard you can't just shrug off exactly.
Yeah, you can't ignore what happened this past weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, so,
the last game. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that would be one I'd have to think hard about before I put some money on that one. That's a tough one.
Well, I have Causey has some kind of pass so we can get into the building. You have to sit there and wait for a half hour and figure out what's going on. West Coast Essendon is the last game of the weekend on Sunday morning our time at Optus. I'm assuming West Coast is favored in this one.
West Coast is favored by 11.5.
Oh, okay.
It's fairly close.
So, a 2-goal difference, and nobody really believing in the Bombers, it would seem, and probably rightfully so. I mean, since that, amazing second half against the D's, they just haven't been there. They just haven't been there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're thinking you're going to get the West Coast that hung with Carlton, you would think that they should, win by 2 goals. But, Essendon, if you get the Essendon to play it against Melbourne, then you go the other way. But Essendon, to me, they just don't have it. And I'm surprised their coach hasn't been let go yet. I mean, I know he's one of the highly respected coaches.
Yeah.
He's part of the rebuilding plan that they're committed to him. But boy, Essendon just not playing well at all.
Yeah. I will say this about West Coast. Several times this year, they've had great efforts. But they haven't been able to put great efforts together. You know what I mean? So I feel like this may be a letdown game for the Eagles in an attempt to recharge for the next week. That is the only thing that would have me give hope to the Bombers this week.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean.
Now, with that said, I'm pretty sure my money's going to be on the Eagles. And what is it, minus 11.5?
Yeah, I would as well.
So that's the schedule for round 12 for this week. Joe Rudder, final thought.
Final thought this week for me is on someone I really dislike as an opposing player, but have great respect for. I'm talking about Jamie Elliott, and I feel horrible that he's going to be out for the rest of the season for Collingwood. I've gotten to know him through the clashes the last couple of years against Carlton, and he's one of these pesky little guys. He's heavily tattooed, which that's how he stands out in the crowd. He's not a huge guy, but he's fast, he's quick, he's shifty, he's a pest. He just drives you crazy in his opposing team. I can't stand him for that reason, but I love playing against him. I love the way he plays. And when I saw that he's lost for the season with an ACL, could end his career, I mean, he's in his 30s right now. I
Oof.
think he's under contract for next season. You're probably talking about him being out through at least half of next season. If that, to have it end this way for him, I just hate to see that, because as much as I despise playing against him, I really respected the way he played the game, and it's a blow to Collingwood, and I hate to see that.
Very nice final thought, Joe. I like that very much. My final thought this week concerns podcasts and vodcasts. And we have to mention this after an episode this past week with a Carlton fans podcast, and a joke that went severely awry. And then a apology, non-apology, and then an apology when the guy's membership was pulled by the Blues. Joe and I are in a unique spot doing this show, because both of us, for better or worse, have been members of the establishment media. Okay? We are not influencers. Okay? We are not going out slapping people in the head. Okay? For clicks. That is not what this show is for. This show is not really to inform, it is for entertainment, but we do have a media background that we know what works, what doesn't work. Obviously, the comment made of violence against women this past week by this podcast is 1,000% wrong, and I am underselling that. Okay? The response was a gazillion% wrong. The apology, I'm not so sure makes a difference at this point for those gentlemen. But there are 3 deadly sins of social media that you will not find in journalism. And that's why I have a problem with influencers and others that don't have the background trying to step into journalism. The first deadly sin of social media is saying, I don't know. You can't say I don't know, because it hurts your credibility and you lose clicks. You're a stupid person if you just admit you don't know something. In journalism, when you don't know something, you go find the answer. And if you can't find the answer, you keep digging until you do. So that's the first deadly sin. The second deadly sin of social media is saying I was wrong. We can't say I was wrong on social media because, again, it erodes your credibility. It makes you look weak. And the third deadly sin, which is very close to the second deadly sin, is saying I'm sorry. Because once again, your credibility is ruined because you look weak. Now, I don't know how strong you look by either jokingly or not threatening to beat the F out of a woman. But I will say it doesn't make you look that strong in my eyes. And as far as podcasting and vodcasting goes, and this shouldn't have to be said, and I know from a place where Joe and I are, it probably doesn't mean as much coming from where we're coming from, but there's a certain responsibility when you step in front of the camera. There's a certain responsibility whether you are informing or entertaining to your audience. And you got to take that seriously 100% of the time. I don't know that these gentlemen learned a lesson over what they said. I think that episode is still posted to their Instagram page, which I honestly don't understand. But I think in the future, we keep all of that in mind and we try to do better when we're using this forum to inform and educate. And that's my final thought for today.
Well said. And I agree 1,000% with what you said. And, there's really no place for what happened there. We understand in the podcasting world, there are more content creators than there are actual out there doing this. We will stick with what we do. We think we do it right. I'm with you. Let them do what they do, but we won't be a party to that.
Joe, I thought we flew through this episode today, and I'm looking at the clock, and it's still over an hour. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to do at this point. How do we slow this down? I don't know. That's our show for this week, though. Thanks for joining us. You can find us on the socials. You're probably watching us on YouTube at WTF What the Footy. We are on Twitter X at WTF What the Footy, where you can check out my picks. Joe, are you going to start posting your picks?
I'll probably have to. I don't do the whole boat like you do, but maybe
Yeah.
I'll start doing it, and at least with the ones the few I make my picks on during the week. I haven't had a good run lately, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm stinging after last week. That 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was a kick in the hind parts. That's for sure. So we're on Twitter X. We're on Facebook at WTF What the Footy. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. And rumor has it, we also have an Instagram account. And maybe someday we'll use it. So for Joe Rutter, I'm Robert Gregory. We'll see you next time.
Showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah, I didn't know.